Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're talking about the basketball action from yesterday as usual, but I'm trying something new. I got some advice that I should hold my phone horizontally when I record, so I'm gonna be trying that. We'll see how it goes, see how I like it, and um, let me know in the comments if you like the horizontal style of recording better. All right. First game yesterday was Bucks Magic, and the Bucks got the win. They took a 3-1 lead, and I think they're set for a gentleman's sweep. I said it right after game one. Um, they just came out with a poor performance, and shouldn't be too hard for them to recover. They're still playing the 8 seed, and an undermanned 8 seed at that. And they've proven me right. I think there's still been some things in this series that have been causes for concern for this team moving forward, but I don't think that they're going to lose Game 5 against the Magic. I think that they'll advance on Wednesday and take on the Heat in the second round. First thing I want to talk about in this game was I kind of liked how Bud used Giannis as a pick and roll ball handler a bit more than I've ever seen him do that before. Um, Giannis would be the ball handler and he would get a screen from one of the smaller guards, so Bledsoe or George Hill. And I kind of liked that because it allowed Giannis to get mismatches, and obviously he's lethal with mismatches. When he's got a smaller guy on him that he can push around, he gets to the rim easily, and it's so hard to stop him with those long strides and long arms. He can dunk from pretty much anywhere inside the paint, it seems like. So, um, continuing to manufacture those mismatches is very useful for the Bucks offense. I also liked how aggressive the Bucks played on defense, especially in the first half. They were forcing a lot of turnovers. The Magic had 16 total turnovers, and 7 of those were on steals from the Bucks. So, um, good aggressive defense allowed Bucks to get in transition a bit more than they had, and obviously prevented the Magic from getting shots up at the rim, which is always, a successful defensive possession, of course. Wesley Matthews had a really big game for the Bucks. He shot 4 for 6 from 3, and as he has all series, played great defense on Evan Fournier. Um, I think that he can be a very important player for the Bucks moving forward because he's going to have some big matchups. I'm not sure if he'll be on Jimmy Butler or if he'll be matched up more on, well, I guess to start the game, he'd be guarding Duncan Robinson, which is an important matchup because Duncan obviously can shoot the ball very well. But other than that, um, in the Eastern Conference Finals, he'd be matched up on, assuming the Bucks get past the Heat, which I don't think is something that's safe to assume. The Heat are playing really well right now, but he'd be matched up on either Fred VanVleet, who's been the Raptors' best player so far in this series, or in the Nets series, he was their best player, or like Jaylen Brown, or maybe, yeah, probably Jaylen Brown. They'd put Middleton on Smart, Giannis on Tatum. I think that's probably the matchup that makes the most sense to me, depending on if Gordon Hayward's back or not. If Gordon Hayward's back, then you've definitely got Wes Matthews on Jaylen Brown. But yeah, very, very good game for him yesterday, and I think that he can be a real difference maker for the Bucks in this playoff run. And I think he's underrated. He's a big part of why this Bucks team is so good, and I think that I hope they can retain him because I know he's got a player option. Who knows if he'll opt into it or not? But if he doesn't, hope that Bucks can keep him around because he's an important cog in our system. Lopez's rim protection is another huge part of our defense. Yesterday he had 3 blocks, but it felt like he was contesting every single shot at the rim, and preventing the Nuggets from shooting a good shot on those high percentage looks, which is really key. Obviously, with this drop coverage that the Bucks play, you give up some things and also stop some things. And what the Bucks give up is a lower percentage shot from three. Obviously, it's worth more, but it's something Bud is willing to give up. And I was really grumbling about it a lot after game one. But it seems like every game we profit off of it as well because Lopez just does such a good job contesting shots. Vucevic had a great game again yesterday. He had 31, 11, and 7 on 11 for 20 shooting, 6 for 10 from 3-point line, 3 for 3 from the free throw line. But Lopez just has become one of the elite shot blockers in the NBA, up there with Son Whiteside and obviously Rudy Gobert. He just is a really good defensive player, and I think that he's deserving of All-NBA defensive team for sure. For certain, he should be considered. The Bucks only had 12 turnovers, but to me it felt like it was a lot more because in stretches they play really sloppy, where there's a couple possessions in a row where they take a bad shot or have a turnover. So even though they're not turning the ball over an exceptionally high amount, they certainly don't do a great job of taking care of the ball. In that fourth quarter, we definitely started to get more out of Chris Middleton. I think he had like 19 points in that quarter. I think he only had 2 going in, and he finished with 21. And he also had 10 rebounds yesterday, so definitely impacted the game positively, especially with that hot stretch he had in the fourth quarter. We really needed him there because our lead was pretty narrow, and he helped us to extend it with that big scoring run he went on in the fourth quarter. So good to see him start to get in a rhythm. He didn't shoot the ball the most efficiently, but he made shots when it counted, and that's what's really important. Gary Clark for the Magic, he can shoot. Yesterday he was 4 for 8 from the 3-point line, and that's all the points he scored. But players like this who play defense and can knock down threes definitely have a role in the NBA on winning teams especially. So I think that this guy will probably be rostered next year because of how well he shot the ball in the playoffs. Next game of the day. One last thing actually from the Bucks Magic game. Bledsoe had a poor game, but it did not seem like he was beating himself up too much over it, which is something that he definitely struggled with in the playoffs the past 2 years when he played poorly. So it was good to see him stay calm, not get emotional, and I think that this change in demeanor can be really key for him in starting to find some playoff success this season. And the Bucks need it from him because he's our third best player, and you want definitely more production out of your third best player than we got from him the past 2 playoffs. So definitely a key. I think that all of this mental, emotional stuff that we see from him, it's a good sign from what I saw yesterday, and I hope that he can just continue to focus on improvement and not beat himself up over his poor play too much when he does have struggles. Second game was Thunder Rockets. Didn't get to watch this one. I was at cross country practice, but I'm really disappointed I didn't get to watch it because it seems like it was a great game. The Thunder came back from being down 15 in the third quarter. Chris Paul had a huge second half, dropping 22 points after he only had 4 points in the first half. Dennis Schroeder had a playoff career high 30 points. And I really think Schroeder's a good player. It'll be interesting to see if there are any trades that formulate for him and whether or not the the Thunder are interested in making those trades, because I think that he is definitely a starting point guard in this league. But maybe this 6-man role is good for him. And clearly he makes the Thunder a better team considering that he was part of that lethal 5-man lineup that was the best in the NBA this year. So, great game for Schroeder. 30 points, 10 for 16 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3, 6 for 7 from the line. Very efficient. He's just a good scorer, a good guy to have coming off your bench, I guess, in this situation. It's kind of a Lou Williams role. I've also liked what I've seen from him on defense. in this series. I think once and if Westbrook comes back, he'll be drawing that matchup a lot. I'm sure Shea and CP3 will also get time on him. And those two both also had really good games. Like I said, Chris Paul, 26 points, 22 in the second half. Huge contributions from him. He also had some good passing, um, some big assists. I think he only had 3 or 4 assists, but all of them were pretty beautiful assists. And Shea had 18 points, so big contributions from their guards. One of the things that the Rockets try to take advantage of when they play small ball is they try to force turnovers and take care of the ball. And yesterday, the two teams both had 14 turnovers. They were completely dead even in turnover differential, +0 for both teams. And for the Rockets to win, they need to force more turnovers than they have. They didn't do that yesterday, so they didn't win. I think that was definitely a swing for the Rockets or the Thunder, and if they can take care of the ball the rest of the series, they're in a good spot. This series has been really fun so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Harden only shot 5 free throws yesterday, which I was shocked to see when I looked at the box score. I think a lot of that is just because Lou Dort is doing a great job on him, and the Thunder have not felt the need to did not feel the need to overhelp on Harden, and usually that's where the foul comes from that second defender who overhelps and ends up getting a piece of him when they try to contest the shot, and they kind of just let Lou Dort do his job and limit Harden, and I think it really worked out for them. Lou Dort's doing a great job. He's playing hard, he's moving his feet, trying to keep Harden in front, trying not to give up the step backs, and he's got a lot of potential to become a great defensive stopper in the NBA, which is obviously a very valuable player for any NBA team, as can be seen with Tony Allen and Patrick Beverley and players of that kind of role that are just great defenders. And Lou Dort also knocked down some three-point shots. He was 0 for 6 in Game 3, and they were just letting him shoot it all day once again yesterday. And he only shot 3 for 9, but for him to be hitting those shots, that's huge for the Thunder, and they need him to start shooting it a bit more consistently because he's been getting those looks and he's been open. Heat Pacers, Tyler Hero and Goran Dragic both had huge games, especially in the fourth quarter. They both hit some huge shots. I love Hero in the pick and roll. He is very good at hitting difficult shots, the mid-range fadeaways that seem to be wide open every time the pick and roll is run. Always seems like the ball handler's got a good look from mid-range, and a lot of times they don't take it because that's not the best shot in the game, but Hero was knocking him down with confidence yesterday, and he looks really good as a pick and roll ball handler, and I think he's got a lot of potential to become a really good pick and roll ball handler in this league. I'm just fascinated to see where he goes from here. Is he going to play as much point guard as he has been for the rest of his career, as much point guard as he has this season for the rest of his career? Because I think that he can be a real difference maker at the point guard spot because of his length. He can guard point guards, he can move his feet well, but I also think that his shooting would make it better and if he could play off the ball. So yeah, one of the more interesting players in the NBA for me. I think he's got a lot of potential. He could be an all-star someday, and especially if he stays in the weak Eastern Conference. And yeah, definitely a fun player to watch because of his excellent shooting and his good defense. It was a defensive battle yesterday between the Heat and the Pacers, obviously with the score being 99-87, first game in the entire bubble, I believe they said, where neither team scored 100 points. So that was interesting and not real surprising because these are two of the teams that are really well coached and give a lot of effort on defense. So, yeah, kind of a grit and grind type of game, and the Heat did a great job of that, and that's why they were able to come away with the victory. I also think something that hurt the Pacers was their lack of depth. I think that was a killer. I was looking at the box score after the game because I noticed that it felt like the Pacers starters were playing big minutes. Justin Holiday was the only starter who did not play 40 minutes. He played 38. All of the other four starters played 40 minutes. And they only got 37 total minutes from their bench compared to 97 for the Heat, 95, for the Heat. So the Heat had more than double the bench minutes that the Pacers did. And that is that's a big deal because down the stretch the Heat starters looked great. They looked fresh. They were hitting their shots, and down the stretch the Pacers just looked exhausted, especially in the fourth quarter. Their defense, I felt like they just were unable to get any of the loose balls. They had a hard time keeping up with players in the pick and roll and guarding the pick and roll because of how tired they were, and their shots also just weren't falling. It looked like they just had tired legs, and that's a result of not having any depth. And that could be because of all the injuries they have. That definitely hurt their depth. But nothing you can do about that. Sorry. Dragic, like I said, had a big game, especially in the fourth quarter. Finished with 23 points, but I think he had 13 of those in the fourth quarter to really play a clutch role for the Heat and help them to get the big win. Bam grabbed a lot of rebounds. He had 14 points, 19 rebounds, and 6 assists, but he had a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, as he also had 6 turnovers. And I think that a key for him against the Bucks is that he's going to have to take care of the ball better because of how lethal the Bucks' transition attack is. You can't afford to have any giveaways against the Bucks, and to have your center have 6 giveaways each of the past 2 games definitely has to be a cause for concern for the the Miami Heat. And Bam needs to take care of the ball better against the Bucks. Miles Turner also had a huge game for the Pacers. He had 22 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. It felt like he was contesting every single shot at the rim. And this guy is a primary reason why all defensive teams should not be limited to position, because he's clearly a top 10 defender in the NBA, as is Brook Lopez, and there's a chance that neither of those guys is on the All-NBA defensive team because you're only allowed to put 2 centers on. And if people consider Anthony Davis to be a center, then he's the second center behind Rudy Gobert. And none of these deserving players make it onto the all-defensive teams. So the NBA really needs to reconsider their stance. I know they did a bit of that this season where there's more open position-wise. Players are more open and are listed on the ballot on multiple positions. Like AD is listed as a forward and a center. Luka is listed as a guard and a forward, which is good because they really should focus on getting the best possible players onto those all blank teams, all NBA, all defense, all rookie, so on and so forth. But yeah, Miles Turner's did a great job on Bam this series. I'm not sure if he ever allowed Bam to score 20 points. Maybe Bam had 20 points in game 1, but that would be the only time. And this guy is a good player. I would not be completely surprised if the Pacers traded him this offseason just to shake it up, because he seems like kind of the odd man out if they want to make a trade, him or Oladipo. But I also think that they will stand pat. I'll talk about this more. I have my Pacers offseason preview coming out later today, so keep your eyes open for that. Last thing with this game, the Eastern Conference parity. Obviously, the Eastern Conference is getting better. The top 4 teams in the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, and Heat are all very good teams, and I think that all of them have a shot at winning the finals, all 4 of them. However, the depth just isn't there yet. This year I thought there were 6 really good teams in the 4 that I listed before, plus the Pacers and Sixers, and both of those teams suffered major injuries, but they both also got swept. And I'm not sure if having one player healthy changes the results of a series, that it goes from being a sweep to a 1 series for that team. So the Eastern Conference is a ways to go before it can catch up to the Western Conference. Obviously, all 15 Western Conference teams have a chance of making the playoffs next season. And in the Eastern Conference, there's maybe 9 or 10 that shoulder realistic hopes. The 8 from this year, plus maybe the Bulls and the Wizards. So, and I suppose you could make a case for the Hawks as well. But if any of those teams are in the Western Conference, like there's maybe 6 Eastern Conference teams that would have a shot at making the playoffs in the West. So, East has a ways to go before it can catch up to the Western Conference. last game of the day was Blazers-Lakers. I don't even know how much I want to talk about this game because it was, quite frankly, just a blowout. Started off 15-0, and the Blazers were never really able to get back into the game. LeBron's pull-up three on the pick and roll is becoming a very dangerous weapon for him. He shot 4 for 5 from three-point range yesterday, and if he's knocking down those three-point shots, this guy's downright impossible to stop. And especially in the pick and roll, people always go under those screens, and if he's knocking down those three-point shots, it makes him a very, very lethal weapon, and very, very scary for the rest of the NBA. Crazy that the best player in the world is 36 years old, but LeBron is just that special. The Lakers got off to a hot start, as I said. A lot of their points were in the fast break, and I think that that's a big advantage of all of the size that the Lakers have. The great rebounding ability they have allows their guards and wings to leak out in fast break and start off the transition plays, and they benefit greatly from it. They get a lot of points in transition, and transition is a great place to get efficient shots and good looks at threes and dunks. So, yeah, definitely a scary thing when you're playing the Lakers. AD had a great game yesterday. He was plus 37 in 18 minutes, which is just incredibly impressive, especially considering that in Game 1 this guy was a minus 20. So he certainly stepped it up and played well for this team, and they need him playing like that if they're going to be a championship team, because the depth is just not there for them. So they need LeBron and AD to be firing on all cylinders for the entire game, and yesterday AD was great. Obviously the back spasms are a little worrisome, however he says that he is fine and will be ready to play in Game 5. So that's a great sign for the Lakers, but when he's knocking down this mid-range shot, it's kind of like LeBron's pull-up threes. It just makes him that much harder to guard. Yesterday he had 18, 5, and 5 in his 18 minutes, and he shot 8 for 10 from the free throw line in 18 minutes. So he's getting to the free throw line quite frequently. It seems like that's something that stars have done a great job with in these playoffs. LeBron's shooting a lot of free throws. AD's shooting a lot of free throws. Kawhi's shooting a lot of free throws. Giannis, Jimmy Butler, just the best players on every team getting to the free throw line a lot. James Harden is another great example of that. The Blazers seemed to grow quite frustrated very quickly. They exhibited some grade A laziness on defense once the lead got too big. They had a great run, but it looks like it's coming to an end. They're very frustrated. A lot of technical fouls, and even some uncalled technical fouls, especially on Carmelo. It seems like he argues just about every call, and just about every one of his arguments could lead to a T, but they did not call them yesterday. I think CJ had a T, and that was the only one. But, yeah, this team's in trouble. They had a great run to make it to the playoffs in the first place, and I don't think Terry Stotts is a great coach, and I think that the fact that he got them into the playoffs might be enough for them to keep him around for another year, which might not be a good thing for them. I think that he's definitely been made to look better because of the superstar he's had his entire tenure with the Blazers and Damian Lillard. KCP and Danny Green stepped up for the Lakers. They combined to have 26 points on 10 for 16 shooting, 5 for 8 from the three-point line, and that is what the Lakers need from these two. I've been stressing it the entire series. If those two are shooting the ball well, slashing, getting out in transition, and getting to the corner to get those open looks from LeBron, makes a big difference for them. And when they're contributing, this team is very, very hard to beat, especially with their defense, because these two are also have potential to be really solid defenders on those perimeter guys, and they need them to step up. And they have in this series. They've done a pretty good job on Dame and CJ ever since Game 1. Melo went cold yesterday. His defense was bad. His shots weren't going in, and he was just really not a positive player for the Blazers to have on the court. The Lakers shot the ball really well, which was definitely a contributor in making it such a blowout. They shot 17 for 39 from the three-point line, and when they're knocking out shots like that, it's good night. This team's going to be very, very tough to beat. Dame, his injury. We have no news on that. If he's out, obviously this is series over. If he's not, maybe they can win another game, but if I were a betting man, I would pick the Lakers to win Game 5. Later today, we will have a Pacers offseason preview video coming out, as well as a Warriors offseason preview coming out. So keep an eye out for that Warriors offseason preview, because I think that's going to be a very fun video for me to make and for you to watch. And that's all for me. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you again very soon.